When another axe materializes before him, Su Jingying climbs the mountain and watches him attempt to swing the divine axe. She watches in awe, wondering how he can command spiritual energy with such steadiness and precision. That only makes her think he could have trained for centuries without anyone knowing. Thinking back to her own experience, Su Jingying recalls once failing to break the ghost axe to star level because the pressure was too intense and it bounced back at her. She ended up coughing up blood and stayed sick for a whole week. All she thinks about is how someone with such a strong physique could possibly fail. Yet one day, this insane, monster-like person just appears. While running toward the mountains, she senses a spiritual energy that grips her astonishingly, and every motion of it feels endlessly purifying. To her, it isn't monstrous at all. It feels as though a god has descended from the heavens. Moreover, Su Jingying is impressed that he never rushes. He moves steadily, driven by a firm mindset and devoid of any thirst for power. Just as the masters of old did, she suddenly notices the divine axe moving eastward. On the other hand, the MC shines as if he's devoured the sun itself. The notification bar flashes, signaling a breakthrough. When Su Jingying finally reaches the mountains, she learns she's missed him again, just 30 seconds this time. She's convinced he knows he's being followed by her, which would make it almost impossible to keep trailing him that way. But something suddenly strikes her. She begins speaking as if talking to someone. "I'm assuming you're still here." The MC looks at her in shock, realizing she's been the one running the investigation. She kept an eye on him for a couple of days. When she finally met his gaze, Su Jingying introduced herself as the captain of the Firefly Squad within the Spiritual Practitioners Association and invited him on its behalf. She says she's been watching his moves for the past 2 days, hoping he'll accept the invitation and join them. She also apologizes if she may have left a bad impression. Then she tells him that his official documents have already been prepared, though they haven't been made public yet. Although she comes across as confident, Su Jingying still fears offending him and meticulously chooses her words. She breaks the silence and asks why. She knows she should tell him the truth, but she's convinced that if she lies, he won't be so easily fooled. She says the organization seeks to unite early pioneers so they can follow a well-made path while gaining extra protection. She notes that everyone is in chaos and that joining an association may feel restrictive at first, but they all must confront the rising spiritual energy and the beasts that are about to approach. But Fang hasn't decided to trust her yet, and he wonders what will happen if he says no. Sweating, she pulls a card from her pocket, introduces herself as an athlete, and then revives her spiritual energy. She shows him her ID and begs him to believe her, even if he's never heard of her before. The protagonist remembers her, because he had always expected that people with superior physical abilities would more readily become pioneers. From his past life, he knows the nation failed to meet its goals and humanity had gone extinct, but now that he's back with the system, he just wants to jump back into the game. Not yet. Eventually, he breaks the ice and confirms that he does remember her, so he'll surely think about it. He learns about it and decides to leave, and he also asks her to keep his location private from everyone else. From her behavior, he sees that the association is trying to avoid angering pioneers like him right now, a fact he can exploit to his advantage. Before he leaves, she tells him that the association has noticed the visible changes after his breakthrough, so she must file a report made up of half-truths and half-lies, and she wants his opinion on it. He nods in agreement, but before she can say anything else, he's already vanished. Sao Jingying gets mad, talking into her device, saying she still hasn't caught him. Now he's avoiding her, forcing her to spend a lot of time erasing his traces. The person on the phone urges her to stop overthinking and, for the first time, feel confident about the mission. She learns that anomalous entities have returned, and it rattles her. Sao Jingying could never forget those damned, bloodthirsty and berserk beasts. They feed on polluted zones, morphing into monsters that devour humans. Meanwhile, some hide behind what look like natural disasters, creating new pollution zones. They must be eliminated, otherwise they'll unleash terrifying destruction that could bring humanity to an end. Later that night, a fierce thunderstorm unleashes heavy rain. Citizens are urged to stay inside, unless it is absolutely necessary to go outside. A new alert has been issued. Yuwang Mountain tourist area is at high flood risk and is currently closed to visitors. Unlike the storms of past decades, this one makes everyone wonder which mighty force is being tested by lightning. Walking in the rain, the MC is impressed by the concentrated lightning energy. Through it, he knows, though, that the heart of the storm is somewhere on Yuwang Mountain. He leaps and runs, quickly arriving at the spot. A panel pops up before him, detailing the mountain's features, yet its pollution level is still unknown. Still confident and bold, he strides straight into the blazing storm. Because of the thunderstorms, the spiritual energy test flags the mountain as highly dangerous. Shutting the mountain off and designating it as a new contamination zone is a sensible decision. Despite knowing Su Qingying was busy on another mission, the association's head still called for her. He then pressed King Ying to explain the situation, and she replied that reaching Mount Yuwang was impossible because the thunder energy had hit its explosive threshold. The area had been labeled as an A-level contamination zone. She also noted that the indicators suggested the mountain could reach an S-level classification within the next hour, meaning they would have to launch the emergency plan immediately. Previous explorer reports indicated that nobody, her included, had been able to approach this area. Moreover, even Gifu-level explorers with 3-star calculations couldn't survive it. Another member proposed sealing off the mountain immediately and sending staff to stop anyone from climbing it. Agreeing with the idea, the head sought to end the threat. Because the contaminated zone had only just emerged and its spiritual energy was still rising, it was sealed off from public access. On the other hand, the thunderstorms were spiraling out of control, yet that didn't stop us. Our boy felt lucky to have mastered the Jin-Ying breathing technique. Still, he realized that extracting the purest thunder energy alone wasn't enough, so he made his way to the storm's center, standing at the mountain's peak. His belief was that the return of spiritual energy had benefited humanity because it flipped the food chain, pushing humans to the very bottom. If they made no effort to improve, they'd be devoured. It wasn't only nature's changes that were deadly. Even a seemingly harmless rabbit could evolve into a threat to humans. The future foreshadowed even more catastrophic events, forcing practitioners to doubt their own power. Fengye realized that even mastering the Jin-Ying breathing and the flaming sword style was far from what he truly sought. He had spent his points to weave these traits into his Tang sword, yet he sought to become stronger, not merely rely on his weapon. Gazing at the thunder energy, he was convinced this was the best way to temper his body once more. He realized he had to keep spotting opportunities whenever transformations unfolded in heaven and on earth. It wasn't just an option, it was a necessity, otherwise he'd be swallowed by disaster. He hurriedly climbed the mountain, struggling against the harsh and unforgiving environment. This extreme thunder property began as a ferocious divine force. Anger at his trespass into its domain generated such force and pressure that it forced him to kneel. He was still mulling over how to make this energy bend to his command. He paused to think logically about what the system had told him, then reached out to feel the energy itself. Reaching the peak, he cracked the code and pressed his weapon into the mountain. A burst of energy erupted, and he could feel the shock run through his entire body. He spat out blood and knew he had to keep going until he reached the summit ahead, where facing death would give him a chance at life. The energy was so powerful that even breathing felt like an algebra test. He knew he could be killed, but his eyes burned bright as he stood his ground. The energy surged. Suddenly, his notification panel lit up, flagging a thunder attribute. Meanwhile, people back in the city were going insane, watching the lightning as it unfolded. Something they'd never seen before. They talked about a higher-level deity undergoing a lightning trial, while a human shadow hovered across the sky. Back to our main character, who endured the energy, a panel popped up. Fang Ye has obtained divine thunder power. He was told to call down celestial lightning and forge his body in holy fire to become godlike. Essentially, the thunder attribute was a crucial power known for its destructive offense. It could also refine the body, turning it into lightning for both attack and defense, a truly ferocious force. Back in the day, people claimed that practitioners absorbed lightning into their bodies when spiritual energy was abundant, and their techniques remained profound for a long time. Their bodies hardened into something nearly indestructible. Motivated, he declared that this new trait was both his spear and his shield. He realized that thunder's power was a force of purification and rebirth, not of destruction and annihilation. Our hero felt a surge of energy rush through his body, hardening his bones and tightening every muscle, strengthening him fully and painlessly. The notification panel stated that this power was intended to be judgmental, designed to punish all evil and corruption. It also asked if he wanted to spend his writing points. He wondered whether adding this attribute to Tang's sword would make it sturdier, yet dilute its pure sun essence. Not only that, the sword could also be damaged. He decided to have it implanted in his right hand. The notification panel asked if he wanted to infuse it, and he agreed. In a heartbeat, all the thunder's energy poured straight into his palm. The following day at Yuhuang Mountain, Su Ying was spotted beside Captain Han. She noted the situation was unexpected and highlighted the focus of energy. Fell from peak level to mild contamination in just a few hours. Still, a subtle electric spark lingered in the air, likely just residue. Captain Han realized that a seeker had already been here before them. Qing Ying looked stunned, wondering who it could be. She rubbed the stone, but the rain the night before had washed away all traces of our hero. Captain Han said the incident began around 6 p.m., and they sealed the mountain at 7 p.m., so he could have left before the lockout, because staying unnoticed would have been impossible. Around 7, the mountain had its fiercest thunderstorm, reports the association's instruments. The forecast said the contamination would hit a great-ass level by dawn, but it actually dropped after 8 p.m. Captain Han surmised the person possessed thunder-related powers, explaining why he could so easily withstand the lightning.